When they don't give you the endpoints, you're going to see where they intersect. There are going to be times when they intersect more than one place, which is what happens here. So your first step is to figure out where that happens. So we're going to say 3x cubed minus x squared minus 10x equal to negative x squared plus 2x. You do want to get this all to one side and factor. So we're going to move our x squared over. That's actually going to cancel out, adding x squared to both sides. We're going to subtract our 2x over. So we're going to end up with 3x cubed minus 12x equals 0. Take out a 3x, you'll get x squared minus 4 equals 0. And then instead of having 2, like a lower and an upper, you actually have 3. So this is going to be 0, and then this guy is going to give you a positive 2 and a negative 2. So you actually have 3 points of intersection. All right? So when that happens, you're actually going to set up 2 integration. All right? So we're going to go from our lowest point, which is negative 2, to our middle point, and then we're going to add to it our middle point to our highest point, all right? Here's the thing. Because they intersect twice, they're not going to go in the same order. Unless it bounces off the graph, which it can, you have to figure out in between each interval which goes first. Remember, we subtracted depending on which one was higher. So we're going to pick a point in between negative 2 and 0 and figure out which one's higher in that interval. And then we have to do it again for this interval because it may not be the same. And it usually isn't. Usually, and if you look at this particular graph, this graph does something like this, and then you have something that goes through it. So you have one higher and one lower. It could bounce. You could have something like this, and you could have it bounce off, you know. But typically, it will change like this one does. And so you have to figure out which graph's higher in this interval and then which graph's higher in this interval is what we're trying to do here. And so you're going to do that the same way we did it with just one. You're going to pick a point and you're going to say, where is it higher? So in between negative 2 and 0, I would say something like negative 1. So you're going to plug negative 1 into F and you're going to plug negative 1 into G. And when you do that, you're going to see that it's higher on the F. So we have negative 1 cubed, which is negative 1. So we have negative 3 minus 1 plus 10 pretty much is what you have there. When you plug it into the G, you have negative 1 squared, which is negative 1, plus 2 times negative 1. You can see that the F is higher there. So we're going to do f of x minus g of x on this first group. We're going to say 3x cubed minus x squared minus 10x minus my g of x, x squared plus 2x of d of x. So we're going to do this one first here. And then we're going to do the same exact thing for the interval from 0 to 2. So let's say we did f of 1. Well, that gives us 3 minus 1 minus 10. All right. And then if we do g of 1, that's going to give us negative 1 plus 2. You can see g of x is higher on that interval. So now for this one, we're going to say g of x first. Well, that's negative x squared plus 2x. And we're going to subtract the f of x, 3x cubed minus x squared minus 10x. All right. So you have to figure out which is higher for each one of those. And then you can just do your integration. Simplify it first, it'll make your life easier. Negative 2 to 0, we have the 3x cubed, which is by itself. We have a negative x squared minus a negative x squared, those will cancel. And then we have negative 10x minus 2x. So this one looks just like what happened when we set it up. The other one's just really going to be negated. So now we have a negative 3x cubed, negative x squared minus a negative x squared is going to cancel, and then we have 2x minus a negative 10x plus 12x. So basically when you switch the order, it's going to be the same, but one's a negation of the other. You just have to figure out which one's which. And then just do basic integration here. By that I mean you're going to add 1 and divide. So this becomes 3/4 x to the 4th minus 6x squared, and that is from -2 to 0. For this one, you have -3/4 x to the 4th plus 6x squared, and that is from 0 to 2. Anytime you integrate with a 0 at the top, don't forget that you are subtracting it from 0. You tend to just ignore the 0 because typically it's at the lower end, but this technically means 0 minus what happens when I plug in a -2, right? So in this case, we want to make sure that we pay attention to what we're doing here. So this is 12 minus 24, and then to that we're going to add -12 plus 24. But don't forget this is negating this whole group here. So this becomes a positive 12 plus 12. My answer here is 24. Intersecting at more than 2 points. You can see that we had the f function, did this little loop here, and then we have that g function going through it. The f function was a cubic function, so a cubic function like that. This was your square function. It's a parabola facing down. And you can see that they intersect here. -2, 0, +2. We found the area in between these.